Hello, welcome to the Fall 2022 online course titled Transmission of the Light. My name is Aya Dhammadipa, and you can also call me by my Zen name, Honin. Either way, you will receive a response. And our course is a 5-week course that is exploring the teachings of Zen Master Keizan Jokin, and a text that is said to be a compilation of his Dharma talks at a monastery called Daijoji. And that would have been around the early part of the 14th century in Japan. So let me say a few words about Keizan Zenji, Zen Master, that's what Zenji means, Zen Master Keizan, and how we come to have this work in our hands. So Keizan was the 4th generation of a Zen tradition known as Soto Zen, Soto in Japanese or Chaodong in Chinese. And that tradition was founded by Eihei Dogen. And Dogen, his successor, one of his successors was Eijo. And Eijo's successor was Gikai, one of Eijo's successors. And then Keizan was a successor to Gikai. And right away, what I want to say is that when we look at this text is telling us about the awakening stories of a succession of Dhamma teachers, starting with Shakyamuni Buddha and ending with Eijo. So as I said, Keizan's Dharma grandfather. And however, it's looking at this succession in terms of one person transmitting to another person. And we should understand that within the larger context, which is that many disciples were successors to these teachers. It wasn't really just one person to one person in most cases. And actually, there's one case with Toju, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who actually received the Soto Zen transmission from a Rinzai Zen teacher who was temporarily holding the succession of Soto Zen while there was a search for a successor. And that's also recorded here in the book. So we should look at this list of people as representing one particular branch within the larger family tree of Zen, and even beyond that, within the larger family trees of Buddhism. And so the reason that there are many reasons why this text is important in Soto Zen, but one of the reasons is because Keizan was known as the second founder. And that recognition happened sometime in the 19th century or so. And it was an attempt to bridge a rift, a schism that was developing between the Eiheiji branches, the Dogen branches of the Soto Zen tradition, and the Sojiji branches or Daijoji related branches of the Zen tradition. And so Dogen is the original founder, and Keizan is said to be the second founder. And he had many contributions, some of which include he had a deep respect for women. His mother was actually very devoted to the Bodhisattva of compassion known as Kannon in Japanese, or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit, or Guan Yin in Chinese, Guan Shuyin. And she later became a nun, and Keizan and his mother were instrumental in the founding of the nuns orders, the nuns' monasteries in Soto-zen in Japan. So he had a deep respect and appreciation for women's practice. And he also had a great amount of respect for an interest in lay practice. So he gave the precepts to, it said that he gave the precepts to more than 27 lay practitioners, and that he created various rituals and various opportunities for the lay folks who were supporters of his temples, his monasteries, to be more involved and to also feel that Zen practice responded to their needs. So in some ways, he was a populist, and he's very much revered for having spread Zen beyond its initial sort of reclusive, elitist, ascetic roots. And as with many texts of this sort, there are various questions and inconsistencies that could be raised about the text itself and the authorship of the text and so on. But as I want to say, the overarching question for us is, what is the practice that is being upheld as an ideal in this text? What are the practices, perhaps? What is the practice ideal that is being espoused? And how can we relate to that in terms of our practice today? So the title of the text, again, is Denkoroku in Japanese. And I believe that the proper way to parse that is Den is transmission and Ko is light. And my name, Konin, in Zen tradition is light of kindness. So it's the same character, Ko. And Roku means a record, or oftentimes this kind of historical text, biographical, many times is very, very commonly used in mid to late Chinese Chan tradition. So Chan is the Chinese word that later becomes known as Zen in Japanese. In the mid to late Chinese Chan tradition, these collections of biographies of various teachers and koan stories related to them. And I'll say more maybe about koans in a future talk. But for now, again, really understanding this text as describing some sort of transmission. So what is the transmission that has happened? And how is that transmission still happening today? And what is the light? What is the light? These are the overarching questions that the text invites us to consider. So we're going to look at two translations of this text, two translations into English. And one of them is this translation by Thomas Cleary. And you can see there on the front that it has this reproduction of an ink painting by Hakuin Zenji. Hakuin was a Rinzai master, and he painted this depiction of Shakyamuni Buddha having come down off the mountain, having come into the world after his awakening. And this painting actually is on display in Washington, D.C. right now at the Smithsonian. So if you're local here, you might actually have an interest in going to have a look at this and some other ink paintings that are on display. But this is the Thomas Cleary edition. Cleary does a very nice job, I believe, with this translation. And then the other translation we're going to look at is, so his is called Transmission of the Light. And the translating rather the same text this is Francis Dogen Cook. He called his The Record of Transmitting the Light. And just by that title, you can even tell that Cook has a tendency to be slightly more literal in his translations, and that can be helpful or can be not so helpful. And so that's why we look at more than one translation. And I believe that his introduction actually is quite helpful, that there's some good background information there. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but if there are questions or comments about it, we can certainly address those. So those are the two primary texts. And then by now you hopefully have found the class page, and there will be additional materials posted there on the class page, some readings, some Dharma talks by myself, by Taigen Leighton and others, various online resources as well. So we'll be meeting for the live discussion group on Thursdays from 6:30 to 7:45 Eastern Time, starting from November 10th through December 15th, with no class meeting on Thanksgiving. So I do hope that you'll join us for those live class discussions. And as a supplement to that, we'll also have the class forum. So the class forum is like a chat group, a place where you can write and respond to various threads and share images, share your comments, your questions, your experiences with others in the course, and get to know each other that way as well. So I hope that you'll make the most of this opportunity to study awakening in a variety of forms and begin to observe how you might find it right here in your own life.